Anime. Japanime. Japanimation. Them thar Chinese cartoons. An art form we all know and love. The edgy, bombastic SoundCloud rapper younger brother of Western animation. Japan's unique artistic aesthetic and storytelling style has come a long way from the cult following in the 70s and 80s to the point of now being sold in Hot Topic as a femcel aesthetic for SSRI-riddled 19-year-olds. Unfortunately, like Europe, like the Southern Border, like Star Wars and comic books, anime exploded in popularity over the pandemic. After The Office grew stale and Grey's Anatomy had been thoroughly explored, Netflix committed the original sin by exposing the normies to anime. Now, today, we still feel the effects. Like a cancerous infection, normie tourists infect every board, every discussion, every community with their shallow, skin-deep media literacy. They look like us. They pretend to act like us, but they are not like us. The normie suffers from a spiritual deficiency, making them incapable of engaging in art at the human thymotic level. So how do we tell them apart? How do we properly separate tourists from the true otaku fans? What is the final solution to the tourist problem? It's simple. Tourists are incapable of actually engaging with the fiction and grindhouse extremity of anime. Simply by returning to your genre roots, the tourist is driven out. But some have forgotten said roots, forgotten the tradition of their forefathers. So I have assembled this helpful list of examples. These are 5 anime that will filter tourists from your life. 5 anime that you must watch in order for me to consider your opinions as valid. To start off, let's cut the head off the snake, so to speak. Most of the anime on this list is a passive filter. The tourists, quite frankly, can't get through it. They can't stomach it, so the show's mere existence is the filter. Frieren Beyond Journey's End is what we'll call an active filter. The tourists can get through it just fine, but they are incapable of correctly interpreting the art. Put simply, Frieren filters Marxists. Frieren follows a common trope in anime, a trope we will see again later on in this list. Objective morality and realistic action taken regarding said morality. In Frieren, demons are clearly stated and depicted on multiple occasions as objectively evil, inhuman beasts that use words and language to manipulate the humans they prey on.
奴らにとっての言葉は人類を欺く術だ。
But despite that, they still view me as a person. Not you. Whenever you look at my face, you see only a wild beast that should be put down.
And is that not what you are? Demons are simply monsters who have learned human speech. You only communicate with lies. How unwise. There's no use trying to negotiate with their kind.
Surely some good can come of it. Why not speak to them? Wouldn't the best option be to stop fighting and start talking their problems out?
No, nothing will be resolved that way. Demons are beasts who seek to devour. Have you ever wondered why those monsters chose to speak the same language as humans? Demons use words to trick humans. You can't trust a thing they say. They're monsters who learn to speak. That's how the legendary mage Flamma defined them. It's in their blood. They're descended from liars. Monsters who found they could lure in humans by crying, "Help me."
Wild beasts who only communicate with lies. It's not an inaccurate description. She can see us for what we are. No one else in this town understands our true nature. Or perhaps she's just logical. She knows there's but one reason to learn our prey's language.
They talk to us so that they may deceive us. Every word is a baited trap.
Both the show and the manga go out of their way to address the question of demons' humanity and their ability to integrate into human society and overcome their monstrous nature. And every time it ends badly, resulting in death, destruction, and often cultural obliteration. Now, where the mangaka creates and shows inhuman monsters that use language without understanding it in order to murder innocents and destroy civilization, the Marxist will see it and say, "Oh, the poor Palestinians, the poor Mexicans, the poor refugees."
Lord Lugnia, what is a father?
Who can say?
Those people fighting the explicitly and objectively evil child murderers are fascists. Free Ren serves an excellent purpose as a filter in that not only will it expose the political biases of the Marxist parasite, but when properly applied, you, as a real anime fan, can use it to filter out those other fake anime fans. You know, the ones who just don't get it. The small-minded midwits who cannot comprehend a morally absolute evil entity in their fiction. Small side note, if you don't think morally absolute evil exists or have never seen said absolute evil in fiction, etc., that means you are morally absolutely evil. But not you, dear viewer. You're a very moral and upstanding and intelligent. That's why you liked and subscribed, because you're a good, smart person. So we spoke a little bit earlier about objective morality and realistic action from said morality. Goblin Slayer is another such case, but that isn't Goblin Slayer's filter value. Unlike Free Ren and much other fiction, Goblin Slayer is filtered against the tourist parasite by the filter. You know the one. Episode 1 of Goblin Slayer and many scenes in the manga are so visceral, so graphic, so disturbing, that they serve to filter out viewers who lack the, shall we say, emotional maturity or fortitude to make it past. Like a crucible forging a stronger blade, the first episode of Goblin Slayer establishes and heightens the stakes of future episodes. It properly vilifies the goblins. I could go on. One of the things I'm really struggling with for this section is not turning it into a Goblin Slayer review or glazing session. It is one of my favorite anime, hence it being on this list, but it's also my go-to when talking about purposeful versus purposeless disturbing of the audience. Goblin Slayer portrays the first episode in such a visceral, graphic horror that for the rest of the show they never have to go that far ever again. It can show our heroes beginning to lose a fight, rather than having to resort to exploitative shots and actions like other less artistic shows would. You, as the audience, know what the stakes are, with a perfect, sickening knowledge. You understand the motives of the protagonist perfectly, relating to him, sympathizing with him, even as he takes action that would be villainous in any other show. To be clear, it is not the depiction of SA that makes G-Slayer an excellent filter, but rather the purpose and scarcity behind it. I have dropped shows in the past because they utilize SA as a method for fan service, or a cheap trick to vilify a character that the show then fails to commit to. Gates! G-Slayer's 15 minutes of hell in the beginning then create a following near 6 hours of tension. The camera can cut to a placid countryside or children playing. In any other show, it would just be an establishing shot, but to anyone who makes it through the first episode, it's Hitchcock. Now, that's not to say that someone who can't make it through Goblin Slayer suffers from a moral failure or anything like that. It's a hard watch. I haven't even braved the manga because I know it's far more explicit than the show itself. Rather, it exposes an inability to divorce media from reality. Somebody who gets filtered by Goblin Slayer lacks the ability to consume media that challenges them and say, it's just a show. That doesn't necessarily make them a bad person, but it does inform the value I put on your opinion as to what is going to be too much to put in a show. Speaking of being filtered due to an inability to divorce reality from fiction, High School DxD. Now this show is trashy. I mean trashy. It's like watching hentai with none of the good bits. The fan service is all over the top, frequently unnecessary, and even disruptive. Oh, Nickel, it sounds like you hate this show. Well, I kind of do. But like spiders or mosquitoes, I recognize its importance in the circle of life. High School DxD specifically, but harem anime in general, is another excellent filter for a variety of reasons. Chief among them is that DxD exposes the tourist's critical weakness. Tourists do not understand that what they are watching is just an animation. They become so unfathomably immersed in the show, so enraptured by a story that, with childlike belief and innocence, they will believe that what they are seeing is reality, and thereby outraged by it. It's widowy called High School. They're children. We as very wiggle. You're pretty much a pedophile. They draw them with big eyes and small noses to show that they're childlike, etc., etc. Now this last one is one of my most hated arguments, as it essentially takes the entire modern anime art style and declares all the significant stylistic features as childish, thereby allowing anything they object to be pedophilia and makes you a horrible person. Ria Scremery, who looks like this but is 18 and still in high school, therefore barely legal, and you're a creep. Izaki-chan, 19, in college with tits bigger than her head but big eyes and a small nose, therefore you're a creep. She's basically a child. And that's how this standard is going to be applied. However, it will not be applied when sexualizing Velma from Scooby-Doo, aged 15, Raven and Starfire from Teen Titans, both aged 16, the entire degeneracy of Steven Universe fans, or high school drama live-action shows like Riverdale or Euphoria. What's the difference? Well, for the normie tourist, it's typically a matter of primacy. Were they exposed to the media before or after being told it's problematic? If it's before, there's no issues. It's not problematic. Why are you looking at it that way, bro? Afterwards? That's literally drawn CP. The whole discussion can be its own video, but you get the basics. Now on to the next filter in harem, the rampant fan service. Now don't get me wrong, I find no value in a show that is all fan service, and the more explicit the fan service is, the less value I tend to find in the show as a whole. That said, fan service is a part of anime. You can roll your eyes if you want, do this so that everyone knows you're not actually enjoying it, and move on. But like I said earlier, if you're a tourist and you think these are actual human actors having their actual human panties and actual human boobas shown on screen by a human director, this becomes a scandal worse than Weinstein, Epstein, and Diddystein combined. Again, they're just drawings. Stop being retarded. Now, how on earth is the indisputable high art character drama of Vinland Saga a filter? Well, like much of the anime on this list, it filters a particular type of tourist. In this case, shonen fans. Now let me be clear. There's nothing wrong with liking shonen. There is nothing wrong with watching shonen. Shonen fans are valid, true Scotsmen. There's lots of great stories to be told in shonen. It is a very spiritually human subgenre of anime. Shonen is Achilles versus Hector. Shonen is Hercules and his trial. Shonen is Gilgamesh and Enkidu. There's a lot of value in shonen. But shonen also tends to attract a particular type of person who's going to absolutely drag the discussion of any other genre. This is notable in the case of Vinland Saga, as the tonal clash from Season 1 to Season 2. Now, if you got Vinland Saga, Season 1 was not an awesome shonen fighting arc of Thorfinn getting revenge. It was following Thorfinn's degradation of character. How much of his father's memory and principle was he willing to betray in a quest for revenge that his father wouldn't have even wanted? Following that, Season 2's farm arc is then the natural progression of character. However, if you're a shonen pleb, Season 2 is very boring. Why is Thorfinn such a pussy now? Who cares about farming? Blah, blah, blah. It's like listening to a middle-class lesbian whose favorite movie is Wicked, giving her opinion on Der Ring des Nibelungen because she, totally loves musicals. Finally, at number 1, The creme de la creme, the peak of the mountain, the gold standard. Berserk, 1997. The 97 Berserk anime and the manga both serve as excellent tourist filters. It covers the entire breadth and spectrum of filters we've already discussed, all encapsulated in a singular narrative, in addition to just being a classic that should be required viewing. Berserk's status as a pillar of classic anime and otaku culture is clearly shown, not only in its ubiquity of cross-genre DNA, but also coated in a thick layer of dust on every e-girl's bookshelf in her content room, to show that she's not like other girls. You see, the normie tourist understands that they need to say they're fans of Berserk, in much the same way that if you ask anyone what their favorite anime is, most will say, "Oh, I really liked Cowboy Bebop." Berserk's dark fantasy, graphic violence, and nudity, and just overall grim world perfectly filters tourists. If you watch one anime in your life, if you read one manga, let it be Berserk. Filters and gates are important. Not all art is for everyone. That's what makes it unique. That's what gives it its culture. It's important to the health and longevity of all of our nerdy subcultures that tourists are kept gagged and filtered in our communities, that they are not pandered to. If you truly love anime and otaku culture, love it as it is, rather than trying to warp it to fit your vision of what it should be. If you can't do that, then you can fuck off back to Cartoon Network and Crunchyroll, where you belong. I had a lot of fun making this video, I will say. Genuinely, a few of the hardest aspects I had to tackle when working on this, because this was, intended as kind of a slop video, is I would find myself getting really, zoning out, getting caught up watching the animation clips that I was putting in for background footage, or listening to the music when I was trying to find like a good track for each section, and just really getting immersed. It's also, I struggled with not just reviewing like almost every anime that I was talking about, because this is meant to be a fast, easy video, and full series review is like 40 minutes and takes ages to do. So I had a lot of fun doing this video. I'm thinking I might do more stuff kind of like this, about, keeping out tourists and parasites, that sort of thing. But, I don't know, kind of we'll see. I don't want to talk too much about what's on the horizon, because that's not something you're supposed to do, because it can actually make it harder for the human brain to, actually then go work on it, because when you talk about it, it releases, the same chemical that says, "Oh, hey, you did the job." So I'm trying to be better about doing that. Well, that's it. That's the video. I hope you enjoyed it. Now it's time for shilling. If you are interested, if you want more nickel content, I do stream currently on Twitch, but I'm working on getting set up for multi-streaming. So, on Kick and here on YouTube as well. It's not actually that difficult. I just have to, sit down one day and put in the time to get it set up. But in the meantime, you can check me out there. You can also follow my Twitter. I try to be good about, posting announcements for when I go live and everything, so you can catch up there. But I hope you enjoyed the video. If you have any additional thoughts about, what is or isn't a good anime for filtering tourists, or maybe, maybe you feel like we shouldn't be filtering tourists, but we should be welcoming them in, like the farmer from Aesop's Fables, who warmed the frozen viper against his chest. Feel free to put it all down in the comments. I don't have much else to do but actually read the things you guys put in there. Thank you for dropping by, and have a good evening.